I never planned to hide my success. Growing up in a modest apartment above my parents' small grocery store, I learned the value of hard work early. Every morning before school, I'd help stock shelves, and after classes, I'd manage the register while doing homework. "Jenny, you're going to do great things," my father would say, watching me balance the books with careful precision. "Just remember where you came from." Those words stuck with me through college, where I earned a full scholarship studying business and computer science. While other students partied, I spent countless nights coding and developing what would become Revolution Tech, a revolutionary supply chain management system. By 25, I'd sold my first company for $40 million. By 28, I'd quadrupled that through smart investments. But I kept living simply, remembering my father's words. That's when I met Michael. He quite literally crashed into my life one rainy morning at a local coffee shop. I was in my usual spot, wearing jeans and an old sweater, working on my laptop. "Oh God, I'm so sorry," he exclaimed, after bumping my table and nearly spilling his coffee on my computer. Looking up, I met kind brown eyes and a genuinely apologetic smile. "No harm done." I laughed, helping him steady his cup. "Let me buy you a fresh coffee to make up for almost destroying your workspace," he offered. One coffee led to dinner, and dinner led to dating. Michael was different from the wealthy men who tried to court me before. He worked as a mid-level manager at Global Corp Industries, lived within his means, and treated everyone with respect. Or so I thought. Everything changed when I met his family, particularly his older brother James. As CFO of Global Corp, James exuded arrogance from every pore. "So, what do you do?" he asked during our first dinner together, barely concealing his disdain at my simple dress and minimal jewelry. "I work with computers," I said vaguely, not wanting to detail my success. "It's support," he smirked. "How quaint." Michael shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. His mother, Elizabeth, exchanged knowing looks with James's wife, Victoria. Well, Elizabeth sighed, "At least Michael seems happy." Over the next year, the subtle digs became more overt. At family gatherings, I was seated away from the important conversations. During holidays, my gifts were met with barely concealed sneers. "Oh, a handmade scarf. Victoria had laughed last Christmas. How economical." She didn't know I personally knitted it using $500 worth of premium cashmere. Michael's silence during these moments hurt more than their insults. "They're just set in their ways," he'd say. "Best to let it roll off your back." Meanwhile, I'd been watching Global Corp closely. The company had potential, but James's mismanagement as CFO was dragging it into the ground. Toxic leadership, wasteful spending, and poor strategic decisions were rampant. Then came the family photo shoot. Elizabeth had arranged it to celebrate James' upcoming promotion to CEO. "We need to document this milestone," she declared. "The whole family should be there." The studio was elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. As everyone arranged themselves in designer outfits, I stood quietly in my simple white dress. "Oh no," James said loudly. "We can't have her in the main photos. It'll look inappropriate." Victoria nodded. "These are for the company newsletter too. We have to maintain certain standards." "I don't mind stepping out," I said quietly. "See," James smirked. "She knows her place." Michael opened his mouth, then closed it. Another silence that spoke volumes. That's when Thomas Chen, Global Corp's current CEO, walked in. His eyes widened slightly upon seeing me. "Ms. John, is that you?" James's head snapped around. "You know her?" Thomas smiled. "Know her. She owns this entire building. And as of last month," he paused, looking at me questioningly. I nodded. No point hiding anymore. "She's Global Corp's majority shareholder." The silence was deafening. James's face went from red to white in seconds. That's impossible," he stammered. "The majority shares were bought by Revolution Holdings." "My holding company," I said softly. "I've been watching Global Corp for a while, James. Your mismanagement has cost this company millions." Elizabeth grabbed Michael's arm. "Did you know about this?" He looked as shocked as everyone else. "Jenny, what's going on?" "What's going on is that your poor girlfriend has been quietly buying shares while your brother ran this company into the ground," Thomas explained. "And tomorrow's board meeting should be very interesting." Victoria's designer purse slipped from her shoulder. "Tomorrow's meeting?" "Yes," I said, my voice firm. where we'll be discussing the company's new direction and its new CFO. James lunged forward. You can't do this. I've worked here for 15 years. And in that time, you've approved over $30 million in questionable expenses, hired unqualified friends for key positions, and fostered a toxic culture that's driving away top talent. I replied calmly, Would you like me to continue? Elizabeth turned to Michael. You have to do something. She's trying to destroy our family. But Michael just stared at me, really seeing me perhaps for the first time. All those times they insulted you, you could have stopped them. Why didn't you? Because I wanted to see who would defend me when they thought I had nothing, I answered, meeting his gaze steadily. And now I know. The photographer cleared his throat awkwardly. Should we reschedule? No need, I said, gathering my purse. I believe we're finished here. James, I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Don't be late. As I walked toward the door, Thomas fell into step beside me. That was quite a revelation, he chuckled. I've been waiting months to see James's reaction. Behind us, I could hear Elizabeth's hysterical voice. Michael, if you don't fix this right now. But I didn't turn around. I'd seen enough. The next morning, I arrived at Global Corp's headquarters early. My simple white dress was replaced with a tailored black suit, no designer labels, just impeccable fit. As I crossed the lobby, employees whispered. News travels fast in corporate corridors. Thomas met me at the elevator. The boards assembled. James is, well, you'll see. The boardroom fell silent as I entered. James sat rigid in his chair, his usual smugness replaced by barely contained panic. 8 board members watched with keen interest. They'd all received my detailed report on Global Corp's mismanagement the previous evening. Before we begin, James started, his voice shrill. I want to protest this meeting. This is clearly a personal vendetta. Mr. Chen, I interrupted, addressing Thomas. Would you please share the financial audit results? Thomas distributed folders. Over the past 3 years, under Mr. Harrison's leadership as CFO, we've uncovered numerous irregularities. The next hour was brutal. Evidence of James's incompetence and nepotism mounted. Inflated contracts awarded to friends, suspicious expense reports, qualified candidates passed over for his golf buddies. This is ridiculous, James exploded. You're just angry because I didn't want you in our family photos. The board members exchanged glances. One elderly director removed his glasses. Mr. Harrison, are you suggesting Ms. Zhang orchestrated a multi-million-dollar company acquisition because of a personal slight? James deflated slightly. No, but the numbers speak for themselves, I said calmly. Global Corp's potential is being squandered. Change is needed. The vote was unanimous. James was out. As security escorted him from the building, his phone buzzed repeatedly. Elizabeth calling, no doubt. I had more pressing concerns. Back in my office, formerly James's, I began reviewing employee files when Michael appeared in the doorway. Jenny, he said softly, we need to talk. I gestured to a chair. Yes, we do. He sat, looking lost in the massive office. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have changed anything? I asked. Would you have stood up to James and your mother if you knew I was wealthy? That's not fair, isn't it? Every time they belittled me, you stayed silent. Every time they excluded me, you made excuses. You were more concerned with keeping peace than defending your girlfriend. I didn't want to make waves, he protested. Family is complicated. No, Michael. Right and wrong are simple. You just chose wrong repeatedly. His phone buzzed. Elizabeth again. He ignored it. Mom's hysterical, he sighed. Says you've destroyed James's life. The country club's already gossiping. James destroyed his own career through incompetence and arrogance. I merely exposed it. He has a family, Jenny, a mortgage, kids in private school. He should have thought about that before mismanaging millions in company funds, I replied. But I'm not heartless. He'll receive 3 months severance, more than he deserves. Michael ran his hands through his hair. What about us? What about us? Can we move past this, start fresh? I studied him. The man I thought was different, kinder, braver. You know what hurts most? Not their behavior, but yours. You watched them treat me like dirt for a year and did nothing. I can change, he whispered. You shouldn't have to change to do what's right. A knock interrupted us. Thomas entered with more files. Sorry to interrupt, but we found something else. James approved a suspicious $2.5 million consulting contract last month. Michael stood. I should go. Yes, I agreed, you should. As he reached the door, he turned. For what it's worth, I really did love you. Love without respect isn't love at all. After he left, Thomas raised an eyebrow. Tough day. It's not over yet, I sighed, opening the new files. What else did James hide? The answer came 3 hours later. Beyond the obvious mismanagement, James had been selling company secrets to competitors. The evidence was buried in encrypted emails and offshore accounts. My phone buzzed. Elizabeth's number. Declining the call, I texted Michael, "You might want to hire James a good lawyer." That evening, as I left the office, Victoria was waiting in the lobby. Please, he said, her designer outfit wrinkled from waiting hours. You have to help him. We have children. I'm not pressing charges, I replied. But the board might. Those decisions aren't mine alone. But you're the majority shareholder. And that means protecting the company's interests. James betrayed those interests repeatedly. She grabbed my arm. Our children will suffer. I gently removed her hand. Perhaps this is a chance to teach them about consequences and integrity. You're enjoying this, aren't you? She spat. Destroying our family? No, Victoria. I'm protecting thousands of employees whose livelihoods were endangered by James' actions. Your family's reputation isn't more important than their jobs. As my car arrived, she called out, "We treated you like family." I turned. No, you treated me like someone beneath you. And now you're beneath me. The difference is, I won't abuse that power like you did. The next week was chaos. James's misdeeds made headlines. Global Corp CFO ousted amid scandal. Elizabeth's country club membership was suddenly under review. Victoria's social circle evaporated overnight. Michael tried calling daily. I let each call go to voicemail. Then came the text. Mom's organizing a family meeting. She wants to make things right. Please come. I replied simply, no. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. A month passed. Global Corp flourished under new leadership. Employee morale improved, stock prices rose, and innovative projects finally got the green light. Then Elizabeth showed up at my office unannounced. Ms. Zhang, my assistant, buzzed. Mrs. Harrison insists on seeing you. I considered declining, but perhaps this needed to happen. Send her in. Elizabeth entered, designer handbag clutched like armor. She aged years in weeks. Thank you for seeing me, she said stiffly. We need to talk about James. Go on. The board is pressing charges for the corporate espionage. His lawyer says he could face serious prison time. I nodded. The evidence is substantial. He has children, she pleaded. Surely you understand family. Like you understood family when you excluded me? When you mocked my simple lifestyle? She flushed. We were wrong. I see that now. But please help James. Why should I? Because, she hesitated. Because Michael still loves you. I laughed without humor. Is that why you're here? To play matchmaker after everything. He misses you. He's different now, standing up to us, defending you. Too late. Elizabeth's composure cracked. What do you want? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. We were horrible to you. We judged you without knowing you. Please just help James. I studied her desperate face. The board meets tomorrow to decide about pressing charges. I'll present your plea, but I make no promises. Thank you, she whispered. And I truly am sorry. As she turned to leave, I added, Elizabeth, the next time you judge someone by their appearance or wealth, remember this moment. The next day's board meeting was tense. After 2 hours of deliberation, we reached a decision. James would avoid charges if he cooperated with investigators and signed a non-compete agreement. That evening, Michael appeared at my door. Mom told me what you did, he said. Thank you. I did it for the company, not your family. He nodded. I know, but still, thank you. He paused. I've been seeing a therapist, learning why I always chose silence over conflict. Good for you. Jenny, I miss you. Michael, I sighed. The woman you miss never existed. You fell in love with a simple aita worker who tolerated disrespect. That wasn't me. Then let me know the real you. The real me wouldn't have given you a second chance. His face fell. So that's it. That's it. Goodbye, Michael. After he left, I walked to my office window. The city sparkled below, full of stories and secrets. My phone buzzed. Thomas calling about tomorrow's meetings. Life moved on. Global Corp transformed under proper leadership. James found a lower-paying job in another state. Elizabeth's social circle shrank to those who truly cared about her, not her status. And me? I finally stepped into the light, no longer hiding my success. My father's words still guide me, but now I know, remembering where you came from doesn't mean accepting disrespect along the way. Sometimes the greatest power isn't in wealth or position, but in walking away, in choosing self-respect over false acceptance, and letting toxic bridges burn. Looking back, I realize those family photos would have captured a lie, a family built on appearances and arrogance. Instead, I built something better, a life of authenticity, strength, and true worth. The kind of picture that needs no frame.